The last time I decorated my room was in 4th grade, which is over 10 years ago. Currently, the theme is very pink and princessy, and it's full of old DIY projects, including painting over every surface I could find, not in a good way. Goodbye 28th century princesses, color-coordinated balloon string, and chaotic energy. Not the good kind, of course. Hello natural tones, countless items suspended in midair, and a whole lot of macrame. The first thing I needed to do to start this process was prep my room to protect from getting too dirty. We taped up all the crevices and removed the furniture that fit through the door.
Oh, nice. Very satisfying.
Our first daunting task was removing my princess wallpaper. They look pretty, but are so hard to remove. My friends were nice enough to help me, so thank you guys so much for your support and energy. And now, a display of our chaotic energy.
Oh yes! No, I don't know how to say it. Satisfying.
We tried to scrape the sticker back with a putty knife, but much of the paper was still left over because I put it up using wood glue, not realizing this would be an issue down the line.
Can someone tell me what was wrong with me? Why would I use wood glue?
Wait a minute.
Oh, that's glue! Yeah, but why is it with your makeup supplies?
What's the problem?
This is grizzly glue. It's like an industrial cement.
Do not use this for anything other than wood.
We scraped some more, scraped again, and scraped until eternity itself arrived. Finally, we removed my chic ceiling decor. The next day, we continued the impossible task of kindly removing the princesses off my walls, aka violently scraping away at them. If you do something like this at home, I would recommend wearing clothes you don't mind getting dirty, which is why I chose to wear these aesthetically pleasing pajamas. We held wet sponges and rags up to the wall to soften the paper and wood glue. This made scraping so much faster. And here lie the ashes of the princesses. Before we started painting, we prepped the room by covering all non-paint surfaces, including the window. If you paint your room yourself, then I would take the step pretty seriously because paint gets everywhere, even where you don't expect it to. I made the mistake of purchasing a primer separate from the white paint. When we actually got to painting, it was pretty satisfying at first, but that no longer mattered when we were on the 4th coat of paint. Just get the primer and paint in one to save yourself from the struggle. But while you paint, put on some jams, a podcast, or a show because it will take a while. After painting, I had to let my room air out to prevent the chemicals from completely infiltrating my brain. When the paint dried, we removed the tape and cloth covering the ground. And this was my leftover room, freshly painted. For my most bare wall, I decided to create an accent using gray wallpaper from Etsy. I only covered one wall, partly so my room doesn't look smaller, and partly because wallpapering my entire room would be way too expensive.
Staying up and talking about your family.
If you're wallpapering in a small room, I suggest getting a subtle and fine print to prevent the space from looking cluttered. I ordered 2 large sheets of wallpaper that were essentially stickers. We peeled the back to reveal the sticky side and held it firmly against the wall. To line up the second panel's print with the first, we used painter's tape. It definitely took us a few tries to match them up, but good thing I had this mysterious blob to help me in all of my time lapses. That's my brother, by the way. At first the sticker went on pretty jank, but luckily we were able to peel it off many times before we actually matched up the design. For the remaining sections, I lined the wallpaper prints once again. This time it was much easier to stick the panels onto the wall since I was working with shorter pieces. We trimmed the edges of the wallpaper, and then we were finally done with this section. Most of the wallpaper looked nice, but there were some parts that just weren't cooperating. But let's just ignore them.
Then we can go eat.
My old bed frame had a lot of panels on the bottom, but they weren't placed in the most ideal way. I removed the old wooden panels and then screwed them into the same bed frame, just in a different place. This ended up being super easy and cost me nothing but my time. Coincidentally, my mattress is also super old and made my back hurt, so I ordered a mattress from Casper. Originally, I didn't want to order a mattress from there because I kept seeing so many ads for it that I wasn't sure if it was actually good or not, but it ended up being the cheapest option with decent reviews, and it had a 100-day return policy. I've been sleeping on this mattress for a few months already, and luckily I really like it. Next, I made a macrame hammock to hold some stuff. Using old leftover ground up coffee and some red ginger tea that no one drank, I created a hot mixture of a reddish brown dye. After soaking the macrame in the witchy stew for 20 minutes, I put the macrame outside to dry. I went on to make my macrame hammock with half square knots and hung it up on an empty wall. The next item of decor was a macrame hanging shelf. I drilled holes in two 2x1 foot stained wooden planks to mark where I would insert the macrame. I did a one-sided square knot to create a swirly design, then put it through the hole, and then continued creating the same knot. Nice. Oh my goodness. My old curtains were pretty, but were too bulky for my room. I removed the curtains with a plier and a pair of scissors and saved the fabric for another project. The new curtains I ordered from Wayfair were simple, sheer, and white. The curtains turned out to be too long, so I measured them and cut them from the bottom. I sewed a zigzag stitch to prevent the hem from fraying. To make the curtains look more professional and be even more sturdy, I put in pins where I wanted the curtain hem to be folded. I then sewed the new hem using a straight stitch. Because I wanted the curtains to be pleated, I just attached them to the wooden plank on top of my window with push pins. They don't move at all and are purely there for aesthetics. For my new curtain topper, I created a bunch of macrame triangles with fringe. Using some tape to mark where to cut, I was able to decently cut the fringe to make it even. I'm proud of the end result, but I'm not gonna lie, this took a few days to make. Still, it was worth it because the curtain topper ended up being one of the main statements of the room. The next project I worked on was fixing my surfaces, the first being my dresser. The drawers had sticky residue from when I taped a ribbon onto each one.
As always, 10-year-old me causing present me so much more work than I would have had otherwise if I had just left my stuff bare and normal.
The second step to beautifying my dresser was to sand the top to remove the old paint. I borrowed an electric sander and bought some high grit sandpaper. Definitely ask your friends if their families own an electric sander so you don't have to buy something you'll likely only use once. For the finishing touches on the dresser, I first applied pre-stain conditioner, then test patched the wood stain, and finally applied the wood stain all over with the brush. Once the stain cooled down, I applied wood waterproofer. Make sure to do this in a poorly ventilated area so you can breathe in all of the yummy fumes. While the dresser dried, I moved on to my desk. I practiced the same exact steps onto the desk as I had done with the dresser. The only difference was that I made the wood stain lighter by mixing the wood conditioner with it. I wanted a light color to keep the room looking as bright and open as possible. After realizing that wall paint does not stay on wood furniture, I sanded the top of my nightstand. Since my sanding belt was getting worn out, I unplugged the sander and replaced the belt. I had to adjust the place of the belt like this before using it again. I stained the nightstand using the same technique I had with the desk. Mix the stain with the wood conditioner to make the color super faint. Now back to my dresser. I didn't like the original dark wood stain, so I sanded the wood like 3 more times afterwards. I sanded the dresser as much as I could and repeated the process again. After 3 days of sanding, I was officially over the process and had given up. At this point, the stain had gotten too deep into the wood to remove easily. After seam ripping my old curtain fabric out of the original structure, I measured and sewed 2 fabrics together to create a cover for the dresser. Just like the white curtains, I sewed a hem with a zigzag stitch and folded over the fabric to create a new hem. And all that work just to cover it up. Like my old room, I knew I wanted to frame some of my own artwork, so I made a tapestry weaving on a cardboard loom. I later applied this technique to make a tapestry pillow. Finally, after many regular lattes, matcha lattes, green tea lattes, and lots of cups of tea, lifestyle changes because of coronavirus, and some final tweaks and touches, I actually finished my room. I cannot believe we're here so many months later. When you enter the room, the first thing you'll see on the left is my new mirror and dresser. I figured I could save space by not having a countertop. Then my bed with all my artwork and decor is next. After many failed attempts at putting these pieces up, I figured out how I wanted them to look. And one of my photo frames broke, so I'll fix that later. Maybe never. On my bed you can see the pillow cover that I made with a woven tapestry, along with this random pile of pillows. Right above my new yarn headboard is a hanging plant and extra fabric I turned into a wall hanging. My new nightstand is so much prettier to look at now that it has a wooden surface and not some random paint stains. Right above that is the illustrious macrame curtain topper. Then I have the corner of my room with the most chaotic energy, this time the good kind. I put a few things on the macrame shelf as decor, but in reality they're usually things I need pretty often. I covered my old dresser with this cloth from my old curtains to cover up all that nasty. This area of my room is my desk, which is usually bare, but I just put all the stuff on here because I thought it looked better. Above it all, I have a minimalist wall hanging, and all throughout this wall you can see these lights that look cool at night. They fill up my room with vibes. Going along with the theme of having many wall hangings and tapestries in my room, I also have a lot of plants that are mostly air purifying. This wall is the one I covered with wallpaper. I screwed a curtain rod into the ceiling and hung a variety of things on there. And yeah, that's my entire room makeover. I don't really have any concluding thoughts except like, I need a cup of tea. This has been a long process, but now I'm so much happier with my space. That's all for now. Bye.